This is perhaps the number 38 time that Trump has claimed an end to the deal. And this is one of the more serious claims, but it still remains to be seen if he's actually going to follow through this time. I think we're seeing the rollout of a temporary 60-day memorandum of understanding, or MOU, that Trump announced a couple weeks ago, and then basically got frustrated with and abandoned. And so while I hope the war is actually ended, or even the sides have agreed on a 60-day pause to work out final issues, I'm a little worried that nothing, what I'm going to say is we can't be sure that anything's changed until we see the repositioning of U.S. forces, or B, the actual release or unfreezing of some of these Iranian funds as the Iranian government has demanded. And then C, let me add to that, we've got to watch what the Israeli government and Netanyahu do, because as we saw Sunday, when Israel bombed Beirut in an attempt to draw Iran back into the war, which more or less worked, they're still very much interested in trying to get Trump to quote unquote finish the job. And so, despite Trump's excitement yesterday that he'd maybe finally ended this war, he's done that before, and each time he hasn't really had the staying power to see the deal through.
Harrison, just put us in the shoes of the men and women that are actually deployed in theater here. If I'm on a Navy ship, or I'm at an Army base in theater, it seems like every day it swings so many different ways. We're going to step up our attacks. We're stepping down. We're close to a deal. How do commanders in the field deal with that?
Yeah, and I feel for them. And I served on some of these bases in Kuwait and Bahrain that until February of this year were largely considered safe havens. They were not considered serious combat deployments. You never expected to get attacked there. And as we've seen, a lot of these bases were not really equipped or fortified to
Yeah.
withstand serious attacks, which is why a lot of them had to be evacuated.
Well, so
It Go ahead.
no, Harrison, to the point you made that Paul brought up. I mean, the address is U.S. Naval Forces Central Command, Building 100, Road 4015,
Okay.
Block 340, Jafar, Kingdom of Bahrain. That's if you want to send a FedEx package to Harrison Mann. They're doing duty. You've been there, Harrison. You've
Yes.
lived there. How exposed are our men and women of the U.S. military in the Arab states that Iran looks over to?
Incredibly exposed. And yeah, I did used to work at that base at Navcent, and I think you got to remember that most of these bases were not built as fortresses. They're built basically as offices to manage U.S. wars elsewhere in the Middle East, or to launch ships or aircraft or logistic functions for wars in Iraq, Afghanistan, Yemen, and elsewhere. And so I can tell you, when I worked at Navcent, I lived like many other officers in a civilian apartment building, right? If we had been under attack, I would not have quite been sure where to run to, or even, that I even had like a bomb shelter other than the main headquarters building. And so, we've seen, I think, the
Right.
military make the right call and evacuate most of these troops. But I do want to add, I think a level of negligence has been on display here, both from the Trump administration, but honestly, previous DoD leaders. When you see that most of these bases did not have
Right.
really rudimentary low-tech protections against drones.
Yeah, and Paul wants to get in here, but one more question then. This stretches from Kuwait all the way down the Gulf Coast, right?
Yes.
Like, it's just
Yeah.
that's the single best thing we've heard in May and June on our men and women at risk.
Yeah. I mean, Harrison, I think for a lot of folks on global Wall Street, they're looking at the energy markets and they say, boy, is the Strait of Hormuz ever going to be free for trade here? It seems like prior to the war, everything was fine. Ships are going, no problem. But now Iran knows that it has a huge lever over that part of the world. How do we ever secure that going forward?
I guess it depends on what you define as free. I think it's easy to imagine a future, eventually, right, where shipping can kind of reliably traffic through transit the Strait of Hormuz unimpeded, but it will always now be under Iranian, at very least Iranian supervision and under Iranian veto. I think it's quite likely that some de facto tolling system gets established. But even if it doesn't, I think the whole world, including the Iranian government, understands that they can shut that waterway when they feel like at a moment's notice. So I think even if traffic is restored, it's not going to be cost free in the way that it was before, and it's not going to be zero risk the way that I think, or low risk the way that shippers and insurers calculated it before this war.